Hello and welcome to another episode of the Trueish Hoops podcast. I'm once again joined by the host of the JB podcast, James Boisits. James, what's up? How's it going?
It's going good. I know you're not doing too well. Sorry.
I mean, you know,
You've been better.
yeah, especially compared to how I was the last time we did a podcast. It was after game two, I think.
Yeah.
We were up 2-0. Obviously, everything kind of went wrong after that.
hmm
Uh, let's just talk about it since you brought it up.
Wait. Before we get started,
Okay.
um, you know how people say I know what you're going through and they don't know?
Yeah.
I know what you're going through.
Yes.
I do. I do.
Yes. I understand. I'm glad you do. Um, but even though you do, the fashion of which it happened, I don't know if I've ever seen a team go through this much injuries in a postseason. Down three starters, and then Josh Hart gets hurt, Brunson gets hurt. They're still playing. Hartenstein had something he was dealing with. It was just so much at one time. It was like just slowly seeing the team just completely fall
Mhm.
apart.
It was, but you know what though? The Nets played a better team and their roster wasn't as deep, so the superstars are, their injuries are big. And like I said, they lost to the NBA champion. You guys lost to the six seed Pacers.
Man, I
Okay.
guess our consolation is we're gonna watch Boston, I guess, murder them pretty much. I mean, most
I
likely.
actually think it could be a little bit better.
Well, no
Just because,
Porzingis, right? For the first two
yeah, that's
games.
that's really because of that. I think it could. I would not pick them. I think they're gonna lose. But I would not be shocked if it went six. Wouldn't shock me.
That's true. If Halliburton plays the way he did the last three games of that
hmm
Knicks series, if he plays like
Yeah.
that, I could definitely see them, giving Boston some issues, especially because Boston has not been tested at all, basically.
hmm
Uh, they kind of they lost one game against Miami where Miami got hot from three and then kind of just blew them out every other game. Obviously, they were playing without Jimmy Butler. Cleveland ends up kind of falling apart physically too. Jared Allen goes down in the Magic series. Donovan Mitchell ends up not playing the last two, 3 games of the Cleveland series. Uh, so Boston, kind of getting their little way to the finals here. I texted you that there's no excuse for them not to win this championship, especially with Denver going down, and we'll talk all about that as well. Um, but on the Knicks side, just an incredibly disappointing way to end the season. Uh, Given how good they looked once we got OG Anunoby and we had everyone together, had a 14-2 stretch in January. It looked like a team that could really put a fight to Boston. Boston was always head and shoulders above everybody else. But to slowly lose everybody down the stretch, OG missed some time. He came back. We knew Randall wasn't going to be with us going into the playoffs. So I don't even really mention Randall in terms of the injuries. But to lose Mitch, to lose OG, to lose Bogdanovich, is just too much, I think, for the Knicks to bear. And a lot of talk, obviously, has been about Tibbs and the minutes and stuff. And we talked a little bit about it too. I don't think anyone played an outrageous amount of minutes in the regular season. Josh Hart did towards the end of the regular season. He had some stretch of games where he played 40 plus. And obviously, he ended up straining, I think, his abdominal muscle. um, so that I think you can definitely look to the minutes. But in terms of Brunson and OG and Mitch, I'm not sure how much you could really look at the minutes. Obviously, I think this style of play was not sustainable, but I think the minutes really crept up once the injury started. I don't think it was the other way around, like some people are trying to make it seem like. Though I think this team going forward, I think you have confidence that once you run this back together, I know some people are talking about maybe moving Randall, that the Knicks could kind of explore that teams will be calling about Randall. I don't know if there's anyone out there right now that you would trade Randall for. And
Poor Julius Randle, man.
yeah,
Seriously. He
it's
doesn't even play. They lose in the second round to a team that they clearly should have beat. And if he was playing, they clearly would have moved on, and he's still in trade rumors. Like they
which
clearly needed him. You would think it would be like, let's run it back. I think this proved that we needed Randall, and he's still. I feel so bad for him, man. I really do.
What'd you say? Most disrespected star in New
Yeah.
York?
Can you name another?
I don't think so. No, can't.
It's pretty. I mean, the only one I can maybe think of, but I think he kind of deserves some criticism is like Francisco Lindor. You
Yeah,
know, we're like, but he deserves his criticism so far this year.
yeah.
He's been awful.
His criticism, I think, is fair.
Maybe Pete Alonso because we're hitting to a point where like, he may be gone, and like I don't think he should be. Like I think the Mets should keep him, and there's just kind of like this civil divide with him, and he's gotten off to a weird start. But like that's really it. Like I can't think of anybody else. And I think it's worse for Randall because Randall's teams are actually good, and he gets so much hate,
Yeah,
and I don't think he deserves it. Now I'm not here to overrate Randall. Like he clearly like deserves some criticism, and I think like Knicks fans still are salty about the thumbs down thing. Like I just think they look at him like differently since then, even though he's been good, and they kind of hold their passion, and then when they see an opportunity to complain about something, they think about him. But he's one of the best Knicks ever, I think. Seriously, in like the last 25 years, how
I,
many Knicks have done what Julius Randle's done?
two-time All NBA, 24 and 9. You know,
Yeah. I
multiple time All
mean,
Star. Yeah,
not a lot.
yeah. Especially in the
I
past
mean,
25 years, for sure. Yeah.
I mean, considering how much Porzingis was loved by Knick fans at one point, it's like Randall's accomplished like way more than that. I mean, think about where the Knicks were in 2019. Who dug them out of that?
Julius Randle.
Julius Randle. Not RJ Barrett, who they thought it was going to be.
Right.
Julius Randle.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I think he's the most disrespected star, I think, in New York sports.
Yeah. I think
Right now, at least.
a lot of fans, do have a problem like with his attitude. Before, like when there was, last season, which was good, up until was good later in the season, but in the beginning of the season wasn't. And then the season before when he was struggling, um, it's been kind of up and down, and he kind of wears his emotions on his face. So some people don't like sometimes the attitude or the emotions he shows, and that's when you saw like that thumbs down when
Yeah.
fans were kind of booing him and stuff.
I just thought of another, not to cut you off, but I just thought of another athlete. I would say A-Rod, probably,
Mm,
like with the disrespect. But again, A-Rod did
you're
steroids
right.
twice and like tried to sue the Yankees. Like it's
It's
so
warranted.
Julius
Yeah,
Randle hasn't done that. So
he
go
hasn't
ahead.
done that, and I've been critical of Julius Randle in the past before, but when we had this version of this team, you saw how valuable and good Randle can be, and it was confirmed by this last stretch of the season. Even though we were able to stay afloat and we won 50 games, got the second seed in these playoffs, you could see that it was Brunson really just shouldering the entire load of our offense. And shout out to DiVincenzo and Josh Hart and Hartenstein, who really stepped up in this playoff run. I mean, Hart, you could make the argument, was the unsung hero of this playoff run for us. I mean, the minutes, the rebounding, the hustle, everything he was providing was just incredible. And he's now going to be like a New York hero, I guess, for this playoff run. Um, but going forward, do you think this team has what it takes? If they bring everybody back, they're gonna try to re-sign Anunoby. They're gonna try to re-sign Hartenstein. We'll see if they can make the money work for both of those players. If they bring everybody back, do you see this team still being able to contend in the Eastern Conference going into next season?
Yes. They shouldn't do a damn thing. I'm of the belief they shouldn't do a damn thing because I don't see if Boston does not win the title this year, which I think is very possible.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think they're better. I don't think they get better. Milwaukee will probably be better just off like, just luck this year. They didn't have Dame, they didn't have Giannis in the first round. They lost in six to a Pacer team that I believe if Giannis played could have maybe swept them, like 5 games. So Bucks will be better just off of, that alone. Similar to the Knicks, right? Injury luck, right? And Orlando will probably be better, I would assume. If they just got a little bit more shooting. Cleveland, I think, will be worse. We'll get to them, I assume, later, because I don't think Donovan Mitchell will be there. I think they'll be okay, but they won't be good. Like, they won't be like top four in the East. Um, Obviously Indiana, but like, I think Indiana's overachieved this year. So when you overachieve, odds are the next year you will underachieve. And you just take a look at Philly. Does Philly get better? Do they add Jimmy Butler? Do they add Paul George? If so, the Knicks beat Philly in the first round this year. And as much as we like to say Embiid was injured, no, 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 they beat them. Okay, because that series should have been over in five, honestly, if we're being honest. And they didn't have Randall either, so it's like, okay, Joel at least played in the series; he was out there. Randall didn't play. And in my opinion, the Knicks with Randall, with OG, with Brunson, you have to give that a full season with Bogdanovich coming off the bench, feeling a little bit more comfortable. If you want to let Alec Burks go, that's fine. Although Burks, I think, showed something at the end of these playoffs where, like a couple weeks ago, he looked unplayable. I didn't,
Mhm.
part of that, part of the Bogdanovich and Burks early struggles is, hey, you're playing for the worst team in the league in Detroit, and now all of a sudden you're competing for a playoff team.
Yeah.
Like, just you don't think you're going to be a part of any. Now you are, and now you're part of the brightest lights in the world in New York City, and now you got to perform. And if you don't perform right away, you're going to get slandered. And then there's like a mental thing to that as well. But I think both of them proved to be like they belong here towards the end of their season.
Hmm.
I think you run it back. And I think you do everything you can to bring everybody back. I really do. Because you have picks. You have the picks. Hartenstein's gonna get Hartenstein, right? Hartenstein's gonna get paid.
Hmm.
Um, but I don't think it'll be as high as people think, because I look around and who really needs centers? It's like when people think Claxton's gonna get 25 million, I'm like, how and where? Where's he getting that? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and I think Claxton's better than Hartenstein. And Hartenstein's been very good. I think you keep everybody and you bring everybody back. Do they have draft? They have draft picks this year, right?
Yeah, I think we have 20. I forgot. It's not
They
even.
should.
I think it's Dallas's pick that we have this year.
Yeah. All right. So
From
you
that
have
Porzingis
some.
trade.
You have some picks, right? And so you can make a slight upgrade. The Mikal Bridges stuff that's happening recently is garbage. Don't
Yeah,
listen to it.
it,
Do
it
not
is.
listen to it. It is garbage. I respect Bill Simmons. Okay, I really do.
I've seen it.
It
Yeah.
is garbage. It has like 0% chance of happening. Because first of all, I've been really passionate about this in the last 24 hours, literally.
Let me hear it.
And listen, I'm not this Mikal Bridges like fanboy. Like, he was not good this year. So for if you're trading for Mikal Bridges for the Knicks, 4 or 5 first round picks it would take. Why? Because the Nets have declined 4 or 5 first round pick offers from other teams. So if the
Mhm.
Nets are going to do a trade with the Knicks, which they're not, but if they are, you would have to overwhelm them, right? And the Knicks, player wise, don't really have much to offer that they're willing to give up.
Right.
So, okay. So you would be trading for Mikal Bridges. You would be giving up 4 or 5 first round picks, and now you have this team of Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, OG Anunoby, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson, Isaiah Hartenstein, whatever, and you have some bench depth. That's a very good team, I think, right? Does that guarantee you a title?
No.
No. And Mikal Bridges, I'm sorry, if why do you have OG Anunoby there? Because they're basically very similar players, and OG is a better defender than Mikal Bridges. And Mikal would be taking a back seat to Randall and Brunson, and then OG's not getting as many touches, and then he's pissed off, which is the reason why he left Toronto. So it doesn't make any sense for the Knicks to cap out their entire team with that. And the only reason why this is a story is because he went to Villanova. It's
Exactly.
the only reason. Because other than that, it has zero. And there's so many Knicks fans that think it's happening. And it bothers me. Because if I'm a Knicks fan, I wouldn't want him. Seriously. I wouldn't want it. It'd be cool. Like, if it happened, I'd be like, okay. But if I have to realize I'm setting 4 or 5, you weren't willing to do that for Donovan Mitchell 2 years ago. You're going to do that for Mikal Bridges? It's not even a story.
Exactly.
And to me, and we've talked about this before, they're saving those picks for Giannis to ask out, for Embiid to ask out. I know Knicks fans don't like Joel Embiid at the moment, but the plan is Joel Embiid. Look at the ties to the agency and the general and the management for the Knicks. They want Joel Embiid. If Embiid asks out, he will be in consideration, and they have the perfect package to do it. They're going to bring everybody back. I believe they'll bring everybody back. And they're going to be very good next year. And they're going to compete for a championship. Because, in my opinion, if they played the Boston Celtics healthy, even with Porzingis, they would have a shot to beat them. I don't think they would. With no Porzingis, I might have taken the Knicks.
Yeah. Yeah, 100%. I think we definitely would have had a fighting chance against them, especially with how they've looked in the postseason. I agree with most of what you said. I do not
Mm-hmm.
want Michael Bridges, especially if the asking price is that, because they did turn down that offer from Houston, where they could have got their picks back right from the Harden trade.
Yeah, and it's fuzzy because then there's this new report that like Houston wanted the Phoenix picks and Mikal Bridges, and in exchange you would get their picks back and like Jalen Green. There's that report, so I don't really don't know what happened because to me that makes the Nets look less ridiculous.
And that got funny
But
because after
yeah,
that, Jalen Green went on some like crazy run for like a month where he was like
yeah,
balling.
so it made that look worse. I really don't know what happened. But also like here's my advice to the Knicks. I understand you lost to Atlanta in the first round a couple years ago. I understand you lost to Miami last year. Sucks. I understand you lost to Indiana this year. In my opinion, like I think the Knicks, like, all right, the Hawks series, fine. They were better than you, whatever. But they had home court in that series. Okay. Knicks Heat, in my opinion, the Knicks should have won that series like before the season, like before the series started. Like I had the Knicks in that series. They had home court. Like if you're a Knicks fan, you're thinking, "Oh my god, we got Miami. Oh my god, like we can go
Yeah,
to the conference finals." Didn't
exactly.
work out. All right, fine. Miami went to the finals. This year, to me, I know Evan Roberts on WFAN is getting a lot of hate because he's saying Knicks fans shouldn't be so happy,
Right.
and it seems
I
like Knicks
saw
fans are like treating this team like they're like a great high school team, and the seniors are leaving, and they
that.
clap
That's
them.
funny.
You know what I mean? Like that's what they're
Yeah.
treating it like. And the reality, and I get it. The Knicks haven't had a lot of success in the last 25 years. This is the team they love the most since the Ewing days. It's like no question. And they don't want to remember it as a disappointment. But it kind of was. They should have beaten. If you're thinking like, wow, we don't have to play the Bucks in the second round. We're gonna play the 6 seed Pacers. You're thinking we're going. And yeah, they got injured all the time, right? But you should have closed out game 3. And if you
100%.
close out game 3, you don't go to game 7. So that's how I see it.
One thing I think they could do, something small, is maybe try to, bolster a little bit of that depth, uh, just in case something like this were to happen again.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, here's my issue with that. I mean, I think the team is pretty deep. And the reason why it didn't look deep was because 8 guys got hurt. You
yeah,
know?
yeah,
Like
that's
like
possible.
that's the reason. Like what is an organization supposed to do? They're supposed to anticipate they're supposed to prepare for like 6 guys getting hurt. The Knicks did the best they can. Now, I believe they should have still beaten the Pacers because yeah, OG goes down in game 2, but Brunson was there in game 3. Like these guys, they shouldn't have gotten blown out like they did in game 4. I mean, there were
Yeah,
Knicks fans saying like, rest those guys in game 3. What are you crazy? You don't play with fire, you get burned. And that's
yeah,
now that they didn't do that. So I'm not going to say that's what happened, but this is you don't rest guys in a playoff game. You kidding me?
no.
So, it's a situation where it sucks. It's tough, but I believe they should run it back next year. This team's got a good chemistry. Why'd you want to mess with it?
Jalen Brunson was incredible in these playoffs. And obviously, there was a lot of conversation throughout the season of you could consider Jalen Brunson a superstar. Now, you said that superstars, very small group. Your definition probably different than some other people's definition. Superstar is kind of thrown out loosely sometimes. Would you call Jalen Brunson a superstar? Has this playoff run shown you that he is of that caliber of player?
No.
Mm,
Get by the 6 seed Pacers. Win game 3.
yeah, A lot of
Listen,
lot of
listen, listen,
lot of
listen,
mistakes in that game three
listen, listen,
by him.
listen.
Yeah.
Bucks, and let me just remind people: top
Hmm.
10 player in the NBA. That's what I believe a superstar is. Like you can win a championship. This guy's your best player. I think in hindsight, now he could totally prove me wrong. Still, I'm still sticking to my guns. And I watched this series, and he was great in the Philly series. You know, to me, this run is kind of like this small thing is like it's not sustainable. So to me, his numbers, while it's great that he puts them up and stuff, like it kind of reminds me of like when Iverson like played, like he played so many minutes and he made every decision, and the team was constructed to where he made every decision. Like Brunson has the ball all the time and he could shoot whenever he wants, and he's been relatively efficient for that. And but the 40-point stuff is because he takes every shot, and who the hell else is going to shoot? Okay, that's number one. So when it's like, how could you just put up 40? And it's like, great. Did they win or did they beat the league? Did they lose to the 6 seed Pacers? That, in my opinion, get loses in 5 to Milwaukee with healthy Giannis, healthy Dame. So I'm gonna say no for now, but that's just because I made this. You know, I don't believe he could be the best player on a championship team yet. Can he prove me wrong? Yes. And I also think we're in an era where you may not even need one, or like it's not that your typical 1, 2, 3. So until he does that, or if he goes to the finals, then I'll feel very differently. Or if he was in it with the conference finals, fine. Okay, maybe I'll be little late to the party. I just don't like to overreact to certain things. And I look at it, this Knicks team, it's a fact, lost to the 6 seeded Pacers when they should have moved on with this team. This team didn't lose to the Bucks in 7 games, 6 games. They lost to the Indiana Pacers. Okay, who are good.
They're good.
But if you're a superstar and you play, he played. Game 7, I don't put on him. I don't put anything what happened in Game 7 because that sucks. And you know what? I believe, when healthy, if he was still playing, they wouldn't have been out of that game by halftime. As soon as he
Yeah.
got hurt, it was over. But what about Game 3? What about Game 4? What about Game 6? You're a superstar. You close that out against a 6 seed Pacers team who's not good at defending, not a great defensive team. That's just how I look at it. And I know Knicks fans don't want to hear that. I get it. He's your number one player since Ewing. A lot of people have said that. But let's look at Carmelo.
Hmm.
First of all, the team was not nearly as good around him. Okay. And he lost to a Pacer team that was way better than this Pacer team. Way better. Okay. So that's how I look at it.
Yeah. Um.
Is there anything that I say there that's like incredibly stupid?
No, of course
Okay.
not. Um.
Because I know sometimes I could be stubborn,
No. Um. You're not. There are people making ridiculous arguments, I think.
but
Uh.
I'm open minded. I love this guy. I literally
Yeah.
will root for him. He's the only. I hate the Knicks, and I love this guy. I love the way this guy plays. I'm rooting for him to prove me wrong, but I'm sorry, I just don't believe it yet. They lost to the 6 seed Indiana Pacers.
Yeah. There are some people making, they're having this same conversation that we're having, and their arguments are not as logical. And I feel like a lot of that just stems from the fact that when this all started, when we signed Brunson, it was kind of everyone thought it was a joke. Not so much a joke, but like that it wasn't a great deal, that we kind of overpaid for a just high usage role player. And instead, he's shown that he is capable of being an all-star caliber player. And in these playoffs, I think a superstar caliber player. I mean, I don't think you put up these type of numbers unless you're capable of being a superstar. Now, you're correct. You shouldn't lose to a 6 seeded Pacers, and the Knicks, despite all their injuries, had chances to win this series. Game 3 was close, came down to the final shot. You don't get blown out like that in game four, but it made sense because of just so much, just how we've been playing, in terms of the minutes and stuff that, we were due for a game where we just looked like we had no energy. But you don't win a game on the road in this series, and then you have game seven at home, and you're not able to even be competitive for the majority of that game. I understand that. You expect that of a superstar to be able to take you there. Um, but I just think because of how he played and just the ability to shoulder that much of an offensive load, there was, you yourself did not think we could have beat the Sixers.
Yep.
Many people didn't think we were going to get past the Sixers, even with Embiid's injury. Embiid put up numbers. It was really the fourth
Yep.
quarters where he kind of just didn't show up, and then Maxey. I don't know anyone expected Maxey to play that well.
Yep.
Um, and Brunson was the one who led us to that. And
Mhm.
you mentioned the 40-point games. I'm sure people have heard it. 5 40-point games in this playoff run. If you look at the rest of the guys that have done that, Shaq, Hakeem, Kareem, Rick Barry, Elgin Baylor, Iverson, who you mentioned, had 6. Bernard King had 6. Jordan had 3 seasons of 6 or more, which is nuts. Jerry West had 8, and LeBron also had 8 back in 2018.
Mhm.
Those are all superstars, all Hall of Famers. I think Jalen Brunson has proved he is a superstar in this league. Now, next season will be, if he goes back to just being a 23, 24 point per game scorer, then maybe we reel it back. But I think as of right now, with the way he performed, not only just in these playoffs, but in this season, especially with Randall going down, he was able to keep the Knicks afloat, lead them to 50 wins in the second seed. I think he is a superstar. That's just
I
me.
think you make I think you make a lot of good points. And I'm open minded to being wrong. I really am. But to me, like, if I look at it as if I'm a fan of this team, and
Mhm.
I would be very disappointed if my team lost in the way that they did. And I get the injuries. I get it. I get it. But they weren't. They totally could have won games games 3 and 4. Now, game 4 they got waxed, but, like, you know what I mean? Like, there was opportunity,
Yeah.
and it just look at it like, if you're up 2-0 in a series like that on a 6 seed, and Brunson himself was compromised. I get it.
Hmm.
I just look at stuff like that. And I also see, like, you know, there's a lot of really good guards in this league that can put up numbers. Now, none, like you just mentioned all those names in Brunson. There's a difference between numbers and those numbers, right?
Hmm.
But Jamal Murray was putting up historic numbers in the playoffs a couple years ago in the bubble.
Okay.
Um, Donovan Mitchell also, right? If you're given an opportunity where you're making every decision and you're shooting and you could shoot the ball anytime and there's no other person who could score on the team, who the hell else is going to score? You know what I mean? And part of that is not sustainable, all that stuff. I get it. We didn't expect this from Brunson at all,
No,
right?
no
We
one did.
didn't. So me saying he's not a superstar, like, the fact that we're even having this conversation is a compliment in itself.
Yeah,
I
for sure.
just can't stand Knicks fans when they call Becky Hammon an idiot for saying that you can't win a championship with a 6'1" guard that's not Steph Curry, that's not Isaiah Thomas,
Hmm.
winning a championship. I'm
No.
not saying it's impossible. We saw the Pistons with Chauncey Billups do it. Steve Nash won 2 MVPs, right? And he
Somehow.
couldn't get to the finals,
Hmm.
right? Steve Nash was an unbelievable player. Okay. So this isn't, to me, like, he needs a big that's just as good as him or better. And I don't think Randall's just as good as him. But if he had a Giannis or an Embiid, a little bit better than him, or just as good, depending on if you think Brunson's better than Joel Embiid, who knows? You know, I
Yeah.
think that's what he needs.
Yeah.
And maybe next year he proves me wrong. Like, if Kevin Durant was up 2-0 on the 6 seeded Pacers and they lost in 7 games, what would we be saying?
we'd be
We'd be
running
like,
into the
this
rug. Yeah.
KD, are you kidding me? You can't
Yeah.
close out the 6 seed Pacers? What would we be saying about Jason Tatum? What would we be saying about all these guys that are, quote, superstars? But with Brunson, we're clapping. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. You're not wrong. 100%.
I hope I'm wrong. I'm rooting for Jalen Brunson. I really am. Knicks fans, not so much, but Jalen Brunson, I love that guy. I mean, I tweeted out like on his post game when he said, "Is this season a failure?" And he said yes, or like was this season a success? And he said
He said
no.
no. Yeah, he said
Like
no.
I want that guy as my franchise player. He's the Knicks franchise player, no doubt. Even if they get Embiid, even if they get Giannis, he's the guy. He's like their Derek Jeter. Okay, like I
Mhm.
get it. And you know what? Maybe I'm being an idiot. I just don't. I'm just looking at all these things, and I just don't know if you can win a championship if he's your best player. That's all I'm saying.
We mentioned Boston handled Cleveland. They won in 5 games. Mitchell didn't play at the end of the series. Big offseason for Cleveland, obviously. Donovan Mitchell has not signed a contract extension, and most people expect him not to. Cleveland's going
Oh,
to.
not Sam Amico or whatever his name
Oh,
is.
yeah,
He believes the
yeah.
everybody Mitchell's staying.
So that all points to the possibility that Cleveland this offseason will shop Donovan Mitchell, and there's a lot of teams lining up, I think, to acquire him. Lakers reportedly already have their offer together. Um, Garland also could be moved. It's weird. We've talked about Cleveland throughout the season that we feel like their best 4 players just cannot coexist together. And we kind of saw Jaron Allen went down in the Magic series, and Mobley finally, eventually, it took a few games, but he finally looked like the player that you'd want him to be, the 20 points per game scorer, the double-digit rebounder. And Garland, when Mitchell went down, looked like the player that they want him to be. The guy who can facilitate and score 20 and 10, stuff like that. It's hard for Mobley and Allen to both play well because they, take up the same space. Because Mobley is not a floor spacer and neither is Allen. And then Garland is a player that needs the ball in his hands to be effective, and the same thing for Mitchell. So it looks like Cleveland should shop Allen. And because Donovan Mitchell doesn't, I don't think he wants to be there. I don't think anyone thinks that, despite how buddy he looks with Garland. The rumors have been that he wants to go to New York and he wants to win. Cleveland, to me, is still, a few players away from actually contending because that bench I don't think is very good either. Max Strus was good. Niang was good at times. But I think, Okoro, Levert, there's a lot of guys in there, Dean Wade, guys that I think you need better upgrades at that position. So what do you think happens with Cleveland? I know your Nets are going to be in there. They have a great great package that they could put towards Donovan Mitchell. Give me your thoughts.
Well, I talked a lot about this with my buddy Shane. The
Mm-hmm.
pod is up. I really recommend it. He really knows what he's talking about. He really educates a lot on the whole situation. And he educates more than a lot of national media podcasts are talking about because they're not taking the Brooklyn Nets seriously, except Brian Windhorst. Shout out to him.
Mm-hmm.
But they are, in my opinion, and his, the favorite to land. Like it's going to come down to the Lakers and the Nets. And if Miami's going to get them, they'll have to probably move Jimmy Butler. And it's going to come down to, I think, like, first of all, the Garland situation is irrelevant to me because I don't think Mitchell's staying there. And if Mitchell's gone, then Garland's not going to get traded. So there's that. I think it just all it does is say that all it does is that it just means that that backcourt is not going to be there anymore. It's either
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know, and I don't think Mitchell's staying in Cleveland. So there's that. I think it means Allen's gone because they're not going to trade Evan Mobley, especially after he played in the second round. I think Jared Allen will be moved, which is, by the way, for Cleveland, because Cleveland, it sucks. Like losing Donovan Mitchell, like that sucks. You lose. It sucks to lose good players.
Mm-hmm.
It's not the end of the world if you have Darius Garland, Evan Mobley as building blocks, and then you surround those guys with several different pieces, like that you get in Donovan Mitchell trades and Jared Allen trades. Now, it's going to come down to me, the Phoenix picks. I think if I'm Cleveland, that's what I would want, the Phoenix picks. Because I know I'm not winning now, but I know I can compete now. And I have these Phoenix picks, which look, I'm sorry, they look like the best draft picks in the league right now. They just do.
Yeah.
And to Knicks fans, we talked about this before. It makes no sense for them to trade for Donovan Mitchell. Again, similar to the Mikal Bridges thing, it caps them out, and it's a similar reason why Cleveland's not working is Garland and Mitchell.
Mm.
Why would Mitchell leave Cleveland? Uh, A, he didn't have Cleveland on a trade list, his original trade list. So A, does he want to be there for the next 5 years? B, it's one of the most underratedly poorly constructed rosters in the league because Evan Mobley and Jared Allen don't work well together, and Garland and Mitchell don't work well together. Now, could Cleveland add some tweaks? Sure, they can make some tweaks. But again, does Donovan Mitchell like Cleveland? Yeah, he wanted to make sure to Woj that he didn't hate his teammates and hate the
Right.
city and all that. But is New York more appealing? Is Miami more appealing? Is LA more appealing? Yes. He's not going to get a free agent to go to Cleveland, and he had that issue in Utah. So when you're making a 5-year commitment to a team, that's a big reason why. Okay, so now we got the Lakers, and there's also the Rockets too. Another destination more than Cleveland. Like Houston has proven that they could get some guys too. Now, here's what I see. First of all, I think as a Nets fan, we're the favorites to get him. Does Cleveland like Cam Thomas? To me, it's a little irrelevant if they like Cam Thomas or not. Because to me, like Cam Thomas, Garland in the backcourt, that is kind of similar to Mitchell, Garland in the backcourt at moments, even though I think Cam Thomas is capable of playing with other players. And I think Mitchell's so good that it's different. Like Cam Thomas can be a 6 man for you. He could start. Now, I think he's more than a 6 man, but he can be a 6 man.
Mm.
To me, it's irrelevant because the Phoenix picks are more valuable than, in my opinion, the Lakers picks are. Because if Mitchell and Davis are there, those Laker picks aren't going to be that great. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And like, they're still going to have LeBron, for probably a year or two, I would assume. And you're in a destination where you can get better, but does Cleveland take Austin Reeves, Rui Hachimura, and 3 Laker picks? Yeah, they could. Or you could take Brooklyn's of Cam Thomas, Cam Johnson, maybe Schroeder, who knows, and the Phoenix picks. And in my opinion, it would be like probably 3 Phoenix picks. The Nets have 5, I think, maybe 4, or maybe they swap with 1 or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So anyway, they have a lot of Phoenix picks. And to me, those, like if I'm them, that's what I'm looking. I'm like, the Phoenix picks are good. Here's also what's important: what Mitchell wants, where he wants to go. Does he want to go to his it was kind of the difference between the Harden, Philly, and Brooklyn thing. We all know Harden wanted to go to Brooklyn because he was probably given the choice. Hey, you have the choice to either go to Philly or Brooklyn. We have these 2 packages here. And he chose Brooklyn. Okay.
Mm.
That's just like that was reported at the time. I know Stephen A and guys like that, like they want to change this narrative that like no, he always really wanted to be in Philly. And even Harden said that. Listen, we've known not to trust what James Harden says. That's the truth. Okay. Donovan Mitchell could be like, cool, I want to go here. And this is a package that is good for you guys. I would rather go there. Now, why would he go to Brooklyn? Again, destination, New York. He's from there. I think we underrate that. I think he would really like to be there. It would be his team. He would be on a team that could be like a 45, 46, 47 win team, I think. Like if you just add him to the mix, like it makes
Mm-hmm.
Bridges better, Claxton better, all that stuff. They still have assets to add other players. Sean Marks is really good at drafting players like Noah Clowney. I mean, you didn't even know who he was at the end of the
I
year. Like
did
he's a pretty good
it.
he's a pretty good player. And
Yeah.
so and then if Schroeder stays, you still don't know what you're going to do with the Simmons thing, but like it frees up a ton of cap space next year. The Nets are going to have a lot of cap space next year to sign and trade for guys. You got Embiid and Giannis's future, in my opinion, very questionable. Shane said this, and I agree with him. He believes one of Joel Embiid and Giannis Antetokounmpo that they will be playing for both New York franchises. Either Joel is going to be playing for the Nets or Joel is going to be playing for the Knicks. Giannis is going to be playing for the Nets. Giannis is going to be playing for the Knicks. He believes that, and I agree with him. Because if you're trading for Donovan Mitchell, then that looks much better as a destination. You're in New York, blah, blah, blah. And then you have Mitchell Bridges. You can make something work. And the Knicks, same thing, right? Brunson and all their role players, OG Anunoby, Juice Randle, they have trade pieces, they have picks, they can do that too, right? So to me, and that would be a sick rivalry right there. Nets
That'd be
Knicks,
nuts. Yeah, it
that'd be
would.
awesome. New York would be rocking. But if you're Mitchell, you see that. And so when people were like, why would he go to Brooklyn? Like you're capping yourself out. That's not way better than Cleveland. Actually, construction wise, they could be better than Cleveland or just as good as Cleveland because that's how poor Cleveland has talent, no doubt. But look how Cleveland was playing when Mobley and Garland were out. They were killing it. It would
Yeah.
be something similar to that. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So, in my opinion, Brooklyn's the favorite. I wouldn't be shocked if Houston got him. I wouldn't be shocked if LA got him. Wouldn't be shocked if Miami got him. To me, it's going to be down to those four teams. But here's what's really important, Dan. And I didn't know this until Shane brought it up. This is why I really recommend the pod. Sean Marks and Donovan Mitchell share the same agency, CAA. And these GMs and these players, they talk behind the scenes
Hmm.
and they tamper behind the scenes. And I didn't know that. And it seems like Sean Marks is pretty confident. And he's gotten stars in the past. So you do the math.
Do with that what you will, right?
That's just like that's the situation.
Yeah. Um, I think the media is obviously gonna
They're
focus
gonna
on
want
the
him to go to the
Lakers.
Lakers. They
Yeah, they're
also
gonna
wanted the
focus.
Knicks to win Game 7, by the way, which is one of the most atrociously broadcasted games in NBA history.
Well,
But go ahead.
Mike Breen was ready to shed tears on the
Oh my
broadcast,
God, Mike Breen, man. I'm not a fan of Mike
and
Breen. I
I
know
like
that's a
I love
controversial
Mike
take,
Breen,
but
but it was so clear how depressed he was.
oh, I'm so
Yeah,
glad you admit that. This is why I love you, Dan, because like you're a Nick fan that, you know, you're
yeah, it was.
passionate, you're a fan, but you're also realistic. Mike Breen was atrocious in that game.
Yeah. Yeah, the Nets to me makes the most sense because one, it's we know he loves New York and that's where he's wanted to be. He wanted to be traded to the Knicks out of Utah. Danny Ainge just wasn't gonna let it happen, I think. And the asking price was super high from our end, and I think we're better off that we didn't do that trade.
Yep.
We're in a better
100%.
position now than we would have been if we just got a Mitchell and just kind of ran with that. So Brooklyn is obviously in New York City as well. And with Mitchell, you have uh there's room to grow even once you get Mitchell. I don't think you're capped or you have Mitchell and that's your team, right? I think there's still an opportunity there to grow. You still have other assets you can use. Miami obviously is always thrown around. It's a favorable destination, but it's
Yeah.
what are they going to be willing to give up? Because in the past they've been unwilling to give up the young players that they have.
Mm-hmm.
Or, they say, all right, Tyler Hero, he's been shopped almost every offseason for the past 2 years.
Mm-hmm.
And do teams want Tyler Hero? Do they see more upside with Tyler Hero than what we've seen at this point? He's a 20
Yeah.
point per game scorer, could be a starter, could come off your bench. I think he
Here's what
did.
I will say, though, not
Okay.
to cut you off. I'm
Oh, yeah.
sorry.
Go
But
ahead.
here's what I
Sorry.
will say about Miami. If you're Cleveland, is Austin Reeves and Cam Thomas, like, I believe Cam Thomas is better than both of them, personally. But that's just me. I'm a Nets fan. You could say whatever, all that.
Mhm.
But I'm talking about how the league looks at Cam Thomas. It's like they probably look at Tyler Hero like if not better, just as good as those guys.
Mhm.
And number two, like if Miami puts Hawkes in the deal, and then you trade Jimmy Butler to Philly and get like those Clippers picks, then you're talking. Then you're like, okay, Clippers picks. Even though I think the Clippers are going to try to be good, but they could blow up. The Clippers picks, Hawkes. Now, are they going to give up Hawkes? That's another thing.
Yeah, I don't know about that.
Hawkes and Hero and like Jovic. Then you're talking. Now, I don't know
Are they
if
giving up Jovic? Because
are
they
they are, I
like,
don't know if Miami's willing to give up that much, but it's kind of similar to how they got Jimmy Butler in the first place. They gave up Josh Richardson. I think it was Hassan Whiteside too, right? And then all of a sudden they have Jimmy Butler on the team. Like they're creative in the way they do things. So
Mhm.
I don't think you can count them out. but do you put them as a favorite? So I agree with you that.
Yeah. Um, there's I have like a list here of the betting odds for teams. There's other teams here like Chicago. Chicago.
Wait, who's number one? Is it the Lakers?
It's Lakers number one at 3-1, and then it's Nets second 4-1.
Okay, okay, good, 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 good.
Yeah.
I just if the Nets were like four, I would have been like, oh my God.
No.
I would be like, bet that now.
They have Miami third, Knicks fourth, Bulls fifth.
The
Uh,
Knicks at four makes no sense. That's like wasting money to me.
yeah, they got the Spurs here.
No.
I don't think.
Houston would be over Spurs, I think.
Yeah, Houston is not even anywhere in the top.
Yeah, that's stupid.
Yeah.
Houston will be involved because
Um,
Houston could put up a damn good package. It's if he wants to go there. If like in my
yeah.
opinion, excuse me, like if if Cleveland gets the Nets picks, like and the Nets don't have Donovan Mitchell, those Nets picks look really good. And I think we and Shane and I talked about this. If the Nets don't get Donovan Mitchell, they'll probably pivot to Trae Young. So maybe they won't be as good, but
Mhm.
they'll look better, no doubt. And then Houston has a lot of young talent. They could totally do it. And it's a perfect team around Mitchell. I still think Fred VanVleet, Donovan Mitchell backcourt, not sold on that. But Mitchell would probably be the point guard. You can move VanVleet, get a wing. Like, I think Mitchell should be the point guard in Brooklyn. I think they should do what the Knicks did with Brunson. Because I think Mitchell, like,
Think he could be a
yeah,
point guard?
yeah, totally. Totally. I think he can.
Hmm.
I think he can play make. I think it could be a similar transition that we saw with Harden.
That'd be interesting. I,
That's
I,
what
I
I
think
think.
he's shown the capability when
Yeah.
when Garland was
He's better
out.
with the ball in his hands.
Yeah.
I think you know, like to me, he's more of a point guard than Kyrie. Like Kyrie's a point guard, but like it's really Luca. And then like Kyrie's
Yeah.
moving off the ball. Like to me, and Kyrie's better off the ball. I know you need to get the ball to score so people think about it.
Right.
But like
Yeah.
to me, like that's why Harden was the point guard in Brooklyn and Kyrie was off it running doing his thing. But that's what I think. I think Mitchell should be the point guard. I do.
Um, do you think Orlando tries to put themselves in here? They have money,
I
they
think
have
they'll call
assets.
them. I
Yeah.
think they call them. I think they can again come up with a really good package. If I'm Orlando though, I'd be hesitant because I don't know if I'd rush it. And also, I don't think he wants to go to Orlando.
Yeah. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah. In
I
today
love
yeah,
Orlando.
right. I think they have a very good team. Um,
Yeah.
it was a tough series with Cleveland. I think they'll learn from that.
I
Um,
don't think they'll do anything crazy. I think
okay.
they'll maybe add somebody, but on the fringes. They'll add some shooting, maybe a real point guard that can do things, but
Yeah.
I think they'll call about Donovan Mitchell, but are they going to outbid Brooklyn or
Yeah, they
LA
might
or
not.
Miami? Probably not.
To move on to the Western Conference because very shocking. Not, I mean, yeah, I think shocking. Shocking to me because
It's
especially because
shocking, but like it's also like I can't believe like okay, how do I explain this? I was scared to pick Minnesota, but I could totally see it happening. So it's shocking, but it's also not shocking.
yeah, yeah. Now I thought Minnesota could lose to Phoenix, so
Yeah.
it's pretty shocking. I clearly underrated uh how good their defense is and just how together they play. And of course,
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Edwards has been fantastic uh in this playoffs. Wasn't great in Game 7, but was great when it mattered. Denver Nuggets go down in 7 to the Minnesota Timberwolves. And this was a weird series that kind of went all over the place because Minnesota wins the first two games. The second game was absolute blood. They win both in Denver. And then everyone's kind of riding off Denver. And, we're having conversations about Jokic just won his third MVP. And
It's
they
the
might,
weirdest series in NBA
it
history.
was so weird because then right after that, Denver rolls, wins three straight. And we're like,
I
it was
got it.
inevitable.
MVP.
Exactly. We especially after what was it, game 5? when
Mm.
Jokic literally just obliterated their team just by himself, basically. And we're talking about Gobert, and is he a winning player? 4 defensive player of the years. You got Draymond on TNT kind of shitting on him. And then game 6, Denver loses by 45 points in Minnesota.
That's one of the weirdest games like ever.
And then so all right, we got this game 7. Jokic didn't sit down for the whole fourth quarter. He's gonna go crazy. And he did play really well, especially in the second half. And so did Murray. Murray's been dealing with a bunch of stuff injury wise, and then he threw that stuff on the court, which he didn't really get uh, punished for, at least not on the court. Hurt his pockets, but that's it. And Denver's up 20 in the third quarter, and we're like, "Up, here we go." And slowly, Minnesota just breaks down this lead, and defensively they stifle a Denver Nuggets offense that is almost never stifled the way we saw it in
Mhm.
this series.
Yeah.
And everyone caught fire. Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid was great in this game. Gobert hit that crazy fadeaway, and once he hit that, I was like, "Yeah, this is." I was like, "We see something like that going." It was kind of like the shots Jokic was hitting in the Western Conference Finals last year against the Lakers, where it was like, "There's if he's hitting that, if they're getting those type of shots." And just slowly and surely that lead disappears, and Minnesota ends up running away with it a little bit at the end. What were your initial thoughts to Denver losing this
Uh,
series?
It was shock. Like I said, it was shock and not shock because I've been on this Timberwolves team since day one. Um, Ever since I saw them last year in the playoffs where they were like kind of in these games, I saw the blueprint with McDaniels coming back. I was like an ant getting better and just a healthier season from Gobert. That they had a path to beat Denver. They
Mm-hmm.
had a path. Because unlike many people, I didn't see this Denver team as this unbeatable dynasty. I didn't see them that way.
Mm-hmm.
And I always try to do this. I try not to overrate the team the next year. Because I remember people were talking about like who's beating the Lakers in 2021 and they were a 7 seed. Like who's beating them? It's like LeBron and Anthony Davis. No one's beating that. It's just like, all right. And then there was like, and then there's the Bucks. And it's like, oh, he's beating Giannis. He's the best player in the world. Nope, they lost to Boston. Golden State. Oh, Golden State's back on the map. No one's been. Nope. Golden State wasn't good the next year. It's it's like I kind of love it, but I don't overreact anymore to these NBA champions. I don't think like, oh, they're totally going to win it again. I maybe pick them as the favorite, but I'm not going to say no team can beat them. Like Bill Simmons last week, again, respect him, was comparing this Nuggets team to like the Miami Heat with LeBron, Wade, and Bosh, the KD Warriors, these
Yeah, yeah.
unbeatable teams where it was like, the Lakers in the early 2000s. It's like, they're not that, man. I mean, come on. I
Yeah.
get it. They're really good. But if they had Bruce Brown in this series, maybe they win.
Mm,
So they did this thing where they invested in like they kind of got younger and they lost key vets like Jeff Green and Bruce Brown, and then you're in a game 7 and you're blowing a 20-point lead at home. And you know, it comes to my Jamal Murray thing where like this guy's never made an all-star team before, like for a reason. It's not just like he's an incredible playoff performer. I think he's like our generation's like Chauncey Billups, but even like Chauncey Billups like made the all-star team. Like Murray has these moments where he looks incredible. And then he has moments where you're like, we need more from you, Jamal Murray. Like, let's go,
right.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think it just shows how great Jokic is. Um, but to me, this was the NBA Finals. Like, this Timberwolves team is the second, if going to the series, I thought like was the second best team in the league. Like, seriously. Like, I loved this Timberwolves team. I thought Ant had what it takes. And I'm picking them to make the finals. And Shane had balls. He said, I got Minnesota. And I was like, wow. I wish I took them, but I didn't.
Yeah.
So Denver's going home. I don't think they do anything crazy. I think, I think they just lost to a really good team. I think they again kind of just hope guys develop a little better and then they just run it back. Because what are you gonna do? I think they haven't overreacted to anything in the past, and I don't think they're gonna overreact again. Who like they're not gonna get into the Mitchell talks. I don't think they're not
Right.
gonna get into any of that. Like I think they may add a couple fringe players. Maybe they look at maybe we can upgrade the wings a little bit. Maybe we can upgrade the depth a little bit, just add certain depth pieces. And that's pretty much it. Because they should have won this series, if we're being honest. Up three
Mhm.
games to two. I love Minnesota. Minnesota won. They were the better team, but like it was close. It's not like they lost. And, this could be a time where like, Jokic comes back and they take it a little bit more seriously and they're playing better. I think that makes the Lakers look bad. Um,
That's
you
funny.
know,
Yeah.
But, I don't think Denver does anything major.
I think one thing to note with Denver though, I think KCP is can be a free agent. And if they choose to re-sign him, they're going to be in that second apron for the CBA, so they're going to be paying luxury taxes uh,
Yeah.
to keep this starting five together. And then next summer, uh, Aaron Gordon is up for an extension, and so will Jamal Murray.
Hmm.
So you're going to see with this team the difficulties that the CBA puts on great teams to keep them together. I agree that I think they need some depth. I think losing Bruce Brown and Jeff Green, it was mentioned throughout the season, but I don't think anyone really thought
They
it
have
would.
the ability, Dan, to trade for Bruce Brown again.
Correct. Because Toronto was looking to trade him at the deadline. They ended up keeping him. They'll probably look to trade him again because Toronto not trying to win games at this point. Um, but the bench, they got little to nothing from their bench on a consistent basis. I know Christian Brown, good player, but young. Peyton Watson, the same thing. Um, I think they should look to maybe actually get a legitimate backup big. I know DeAndre Jordan had some like little moments in the regular season where he looked okay. But those non
DJ, DeAndre Jordan.
like yeah, in 2024, DeAndre Jordan. But I think those non-Jokic minutes are always a problem. And I think when you're playing a team that's just as good as you or maybe better, those minutes will kill you. And because of that, Jokic almost couldn't sit at all in Game 7. And I think by the fourth quarter, he may have been a little fatigued, and I think
Mhm.
that contributes as well. Because they were the defense, Jaden McDaniels. When Anthony Edwards said, they got KD, but we got Jaden McDaniels. I laughed because I thought it was funny, but he was dead serious. And a lot of these things,
Well,
Anthony Edwards be joking, but he's serious.
you know,
And
and I'm sure he didn't think like, yeah, Jaden McDaniels is better than Kevin
no, of
Durant.
course
But you
not.
know what? He's the perfect guy to guard him.
100%. And he had 23 points, I think, in Game 7 against Denver.
Yeah.
He was big, and this was someone they didn't have last season.
I tell you
And
what,
yeah,
it makes D'Angelo Russell look awful.
oh my God, they
It
got
it
rid of
really does
him.
because the only difference between this year's team and last year's team for the Timberwolves, obviously Ant's gotten better,
Yeah,
you know, and Towns has embraced the defense, and Gobert and Towns have had more time to play together, and and Gobert's been healthier.
yeah,
But Mike Conley is a big reason why this Timberwolves team is going to the conference finals, and I hope they win the title. I am rooting for that team. I'm so happy for Minnesota. I really am, and I got really depressed when they blew it and they were down 3 games to do. And man, I love Ant. Love that dude.
yeah. Um, I think we could pump the brakes on the Jordan, comparisons
I
just a
never
little
did
bit,
that.
but
I never did that. Just whatever.
yeah,
Just enjoy what this kid is doing
exactly, yeah,
and just let him play.
yeah. Third player under the 22 or younger, 25, 5-5. The only other two are to lead a team to the conference finals, Kobe and LeBron.
Yeah.
What he's doing is incredible. It's really we haven't seen a team this young, or at least led by a player this young, get to this point in some time, and the fact that they have the chance now, I think they beat Dallas, and Dallas has been great, and
I think they could sweep Dallas.
I
I'm
think
serious. I think it's a very bad matchup. Now, I'll give Dallas a game. I've been
Dallas,
very harsh with Dallas. I've been
yeah.
very mean towards Dallas. I've been very mean towards Dallas. Um, and I will fully admit I was wrong about this Dallas team.
I think a lot of people were.
I
I
was
really,
wrong.
I was too.
I think we're overrating Kyrie's play a little bit.
I
Just
mean,
look at his numbers, dude.
he was a no show for majority of that
If
OKC series.
if if Dallas loses this series, what are we saying about Kyrie?
It'll probably be like, yo, where were you?
Okay, so Dallas, so Kyrie is not putting up like the best numbers in this Thunder series.
No.
Okay, you think he's gonna put up numbers in this Timberwolves series? This guy who struggles with length, and he's got Gobert, McDaniel's, and like Ant out there,
Yeah, Gobert
dude.
and Cat at the rim.
He is going to struggle. And to me, like it's just a bad matchup. To me, I could have like, all right, I admit I was wrong about Dallas, but I admitted in the Clippers series I could see them beating the Clippers. Like totally could see
Yeah.
them beating the Clippers. I thought they would lose to the Thunder. Again, could totally see them beating the Thunder. It's an inexperienced team. I didn't expect this from PJ Washington. The defenses look better. I think Jason Kidd, we have to look at historically as a better coach than we think because I had the experience with Jason Kidd as my coach. It
Mhm.
was brutal. I got the full Jason Kidd experience. I got the first half of the season where he looked like the worst coach in the league, and then I got the second half of the season where he looked like the best coach in the league. And then he wanted out and did his Jason Kidd BS. Then he goes to Milwaukee, and that's the worst team in the league. And then he gets there, they're a playoff team. You're like, oh my God, Jason Kidd, what the hell? And then he tries to make Giannis a point guard, and then Milwaukee can't recapture that since. He goes to the Lakers, he's an assistant coach. They win a title.
Mhm.
He gets a job in Dallas. They go to the conference finals. They missed the playoffs last year. Now they're back in the conference finals. He's the weirdest coach ever. And I think we have to
Yeah, it's kind of
put
crazy.
some respect on his name.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job with this team, and I think though, it shows you little moves at the deadline can make a difference. I mean, Daniel Gafford was on the second worst team in the league in Washington, a team that literally was trying to lose games, and you take him out of that situation, and here he is, a functional player who's given them size and athleticism in the front court. And the same thing for PJ Washington, who was in Charlotte, another team who's, they have injuries, but they're not trying to win games right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're struggling. You bring those two players in, a team that was terrible rebounding the first half of the season, and defensively they were a bottom 10 team, and they improved in both of those aspects over the
Mm-hmm.
post All-Star break, and it made the difference. Now they
Yeah.
played a team in Oklahoma City, like you mentioned, very young team. Shy obviously had an MVP caliber season, and he was great in this series for the most part, but the rest of the guys weren't. Jalen Williams didn't have a good series. Chet's a rookie. Whatever he gives you is great. I think he was present on the defensive side, but offensively, you could tell, he was kind of, maybe a little bit of a deer in headlights.
Yeah.
Um, they're gonna improve, and they have uh a ridiculous amount of draft picks. I think it's about time they start trying to use and get this team better because Shy is, in
Yeah.
his prime right now. I think you don't, just hope that, this window stays open for so long,
Mm-hmm.
especially in this Western Conference that had 10 playoff teams. The Rockets are probably going to be better next year.
Yep.
Memphis will be back with healthy roster, most likely.
Mm-hmm.
So I think Oklahoma City should try to do what they can going forward, not go crazy, but
I agree.
try to get better because they, what they did at the deadline, they got Gordon Hayward. He ended up not even, really making a difference. I don't even know if he wants to be there or if he even cared.
Yeah. We think a lot of people think, and I would say probably, it's that Sam Presti is the best executive in basketball. But
Many people say that, yeah.
this guy cannot fuck up this team. Like he cannot be like not he has to be aggressive with this team. He wasn't aggressive with the last team, and he lost those guys.
Yeah.
Right now, the Harden thing wasn't really his fault.
It was a
So
dispute on money, right?
exactly,
Yeah.
but that team was in the finals the year before.
Mm-hmm. 100%.
Okay. And yeah, big three Miami Heat, whatever. But make a few fringe additions. Okay. Then this team doesn't have any shooting a couple years later. And they're so close, but again, they don't have enough. They cannot mess around with this team. They should have added size at the deadline and they added Gordon Hayward. Daniel Gafford was there. PJ Washington was there. They have a gazillion picks.
Yeah.
They could have done it. And where did they go? They went to Dallas. Dallas beat them. And who were big contributors? Those guys. So if you're the Thunder, all right, see what we have. We didn't want to rush into the season. That's all well and good. Next year, there's expectations, and you're going to have to make those moves because those moves are going to be the difference of you losing in the second round or losing in the conference finals or losing in a tough series in the NBA finals and winning a championship. And I'm sorry if Sam Presti does not win with this group, he is not. He is an overrated general manager if that's the case. Because he's somebody who can't get the deal done. Now, I believe he will this time around because I think he's learned his lesson. It's a big reason why I'm still defending Sean Marks with the Nets is because even though it's crazy right now to compare Sean Marks to Sam Presti, I
Right.
think there are parallels and similarities. But those two GMs lost 3 stars. Like they did.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Marks was a little different, but that's just the case. They lost 3 stars, but both have drafted really well. Both have proven that they can build a team that can get to that point, but they got to get the job done.
Yeah.
So Billy Donovan, Sam Presti has this title as the best executive in basketball, and he hasn't won anything.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy, but it's true.
Yeah. And he's been the GM. He's probably the longest tenured GM in the league,
Yeah.
for sure, right?
Oh, Pat Riley.
Oh, true. Pat Riley. Um, and that's, because he's had these picks, but at some point, picks, you can't just keep building young teams. You got to try and win. You got to try and win, especially when you have a player like, of Shai's caliber who's an MVP candidate.
You just
Um,
got to be careful. It's why I applaud Brad Stevens. I think he's done a great job with the Celtics team, but Ainge was doing the same thing
yeah,
in a way, right? Now he traded for Kyrie, so I'm not gonna like completely
that's
rip
true.
him completely, but you just got to be careful. Like we look at the Celtics as top tier organization. Like they look at how talented they are. They haven't won with this group. They haven't. And
Yeah,
as
not yet.
soon out, if they don't win this year, which it's set up for them, you know what I mean? Like I
Hmm.
believe Minnesota's going to win, but it's mainly because I don't trust Missoula and I don't trust these guys. First of all, if the Celtics don't win the championship this year, I think Missoula's gone. And um, if they had a Doka, it'd maybe be different, but you can't mess around here. Like
100%.
your window could end next year.
Yeah, there's always like this assumption that young team, they'll be back. They got time. You look at teams that we say that about, and most of the time they don't get back.
Yeah,
Doesn't
and
happen
the
again.
and the Thunder do have time.
Yeah,
They are the youngest team in basketball. I'm just saying that time will eventually run out, and if Sam Presti doesn't get the job done, we look at him completely differently.
100%. I agree. That's all we have for this episode. I'd like to thank James for joining me again. It's always a pleasure. You could check out the JB podcast and his most recent episode with Shane. Right, I got more Nets talk and stuff like that. It'll all be in the description.
Yeah, and to be fair, we don't just talk about the Nets. We were as unbiased as we could. It
Right.
it just so happens to be, and Dan will agree with you heard Dan say earlier, the Nets are the favorite for Donovan Mitchell.
Yes.
Makes the most sense.
Hmm.
It just so happens to be the Brooklyn Nets have a really good chance at getting Donovan Mitchell. We also said if they don't get him, they would probably pivot to Trae Young. And we said the Lakers are a threat. We said Miami was a threat. We said Houston was a threat, and they're all legit threats. And we go into all those teams as well. So it's not just a Nets, party. It's it's we don't get to the Nets. We don't address them first. We address them at the end.
All
But I
right.
really recommend it. He really knows his stuff. Really recommend listening to it if you're interested in the Donovan Mitchell sweepstakes.
Yeah, and that'll all be in the description. You can also check out other videos on the channel from Trueish Hoops. You can follow me at OZP Dan on Twitter and Instagram. Do you call it X or do you still call it Twitter?
It's Twitter, bro. It's
It's
Twitter. It's Twitter.
it's Twitter. Thanks for watching. See you next time.